everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Sahaj Times podcast. My name is Lele. I'm the host of this podcast, and today Fabrizio won't be here because he's doing his favorite hobby, bullying left-handed people. So he couldn't join us. But today's episode is all about how the spiritual can be found outside the Sahaj bubble in movies, book, and everyday's life. A yogi through its experience and eyes can find a spiritual insight everywhere, I would say. For example, watching a movie and feel like there is a sahaj value in it, especially because there are so many symbols that might relate to sahaja yoga. So for today's episode, I have invited probably the most expert in Italy about symbols and archetypes, I would say, and is also a yogi. This is not the first time that he joins us. Actually, this is the second time and the first time that a guest comes for the second time on an episode. I hope it's clear. And his name is Adriano.
Hi
Ciao,
guys, this
Adri.
is Strategy. My favorite hobby instead is bullying left-sided people. That's a difference between me and Fabri.
Yeah, you're like on the subtle level as always.
Always, always.
Can I ask you? So, as I was
Mm.
saying, I think you're like the most expert on this topic, and
I'm
I was
humble. I'm
wondering.
humble. You know, I'm humble. Is my only defect is that I am
Yeah,
humble.
you're especially because you told me this. You told me we were going to the gym and you were like, Lele, I think I'm the most expert about this.
We are
And
seeker of truth. We cannot deny it once that we
we,
found it.
yeah, of course. And so I would like to ask you, why do yogis look for symbols in society?
Do they?
Do
I
we?
think they should, but they don't. Well, my peculiar experience comes from my um, as well peculiar Saj birth. What I mean,
Mm,
my first puja, the first time I had the blessing of Shimadaji's darshan. Actually, the first time I met Shimadaji in person, that's remarkable and maybe explains some other things about my experience in Saj. The first time I had the blessing of Shimadaji's darshan was straight in a Guru Puja, Guru Puja 2002. When the games get tough on the tough ones, no,
yeah.
they to play. I don't remember the original quote, but the meaning is clear from Animal House, a classic of the spiritual movie art. And so that speech of Shimadaji, Guru Puja 2002, it was very as always. I mean, as I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
say,
yeah. Well,
as I always say, when we speak about the divine, already the concepts of speech and divine, okay, the concept of self of divine, it's a paradox because the divine is something that is beyond human concepts. So we have to take for granted the distance between the limits of human language and the experience of the divine, which is by definition ineffable.
mhm.
So I ask forgiveness in advance. I'm not even a mother tongue in English for any mistakes or flaws I may inflict to the public. So my first puja was Guru Puja 2002, and in that auspicious occasion, Shimataji's speech was uh, some sort of a switch in the teachings in regard of the spreading of Saja Yoga.
Mm,
On the Guru Purnima of the same year, I think the day after, the puja, she has given special blessings to the yogis for spreading Saj. And in that speech, and also in all the speeches of those months, she emphasized this point. Of course, at the beginning in Saja Yoga, we have to work on our left side to clear out from all the negativities of the past, all the bad habits, and we know to develop our bhakti. We have to work out the left side. In that speech, he said, but once that you have clear out, you have to move to the right side, of course, as a movement towards the outside world. Of course, we have to stay in the center. We have to be very careful. Of course, when Shimadaji, she is the source of knowledge and also of intelligence, so we should able to have discretion to understand, no? These subtle messages. Of course, we are not saying that we have to go on the right side, but we are saying that once that you clear out your left side, you can use, from a balanced perspective, you can use the right side to speak to the outside world. So maybe this speech, this first meeting with the divine in person, molded my vision of Saj. And that's my point. At the beginning, I'm talking from a perspective of a newcomer, of a seeker, not of a born realized soul, okay? From a person that joined Sahaja Yoga when I was 22 years old. I had a quite lively life before Saj, if you know what I mean. So,
and you still have. I mean,
well, yes,
it's still
hopefully in a different
different
way.
manners.
Well, but now I'm supposed to have an higher awareness. Beside jokes, of course, when you come from a path of seeking and you meet Saja Yoga, you have to do this. Shimadaji used the expression in a speech of the early 80s. You have to do a U-turn, no? You have to change all your habits. You have to put the meditation as priority in your life. Okay. And that is absolutely, I don't want to say compulsory, but absolutely it's necessary. Okay, it's absolutely the basis, the beginning to become a yogi. So you have to find your word, you find the word, you discover the word in Saja Yoga. My point is, once that you are settled down in Saja Yoga, once that your roots are deep into the Dharma, into the spiritual awareness, the second phase, this movement of the attention from the left side, once that you have clear out and establish the Dharma, okay, and you have conquered,
and also the Mariadas
the
to see
Mayadas,
outside where everything is.
overcome all the temptations and the seductions, blah blah blah, and all the Maya. I mean, we never. I already said we have to take for granted the limits of the language. Okay, once that you have, you are okay as a yogi. Okay, in your daily practice and so on, you have developed the basic level of Sahaj awareness. Then I think the second phase of a mature yogi is to find Saja Yoga into the world, to find Saja Yoga outside the world. I don't know if it's clear. Like once that first you have to develop your muscles, your saddle muscles. Once you have to be strong and overcome all the temptation that comes from the Bhavasagar, from the ocean of illusions. Once that you have, with the boat of discretion, you pass on the other side, you can then face and deal with the world outside, which is our purpose, which is our mission. Now I'm translating from Italian back to English. Actually, there will be a huge lost in translation effect because I'm quoting She Jesus. She Jesus spoke in Aramaic. The Gospels were written in Greek. Then they were translated in Latin. Then they were translated in all the different languages with very arguable criteria. And
Yes.
now I'm translating back from the Italian to the English. So uh, I hope you will get it. She
Yeah.
Jesus said, "I send I send you all into the world. You have to be innocent as doves and clever as snakes." So we don't have to be scared. We don't have to be shy. We don't have to be cowards. We have to be self-confident and strong and proud with our head high as yogis. But to reach that level of self-awareness, first you have to meditate in a very deep way. You have to clear out daily. You have to
Hmm.
build your strong foundation. As we are talking about Sahaj messages outside Sahaja Yoga, there's a beautiful Bob Dylan's line in
There we go.
Forever Young that he wrote for his son when one of his children was born. Famous song Forever Young. The perfect description of Muladhara. May you have a strong foundation when the wind of changes shifts, and that's what I mean.
Mm.
So once that you have developed this awareness, you can find symbols and you can recognize archetypes and you can enjoy as a detached witness works of art that
Hmm.
they don't come from the Sahaj environment, but maybe sometimes
There is some Sahaj value in it
seldom,
that we
but
can.
sometimes they express Sahaj values and meanings and archetypes and symbols and messages, as we can mention, or or also it's a intellectual exercise. But intellectual doesn't mean satanic. That's another thing to to understand. Maybe it's a discretion exercise to uh, understand, comprehend, and discriminate between, as for example, false knowledge and good intuition in a movie or in a book or whatever.
Yes, and for example, we have a really clear example in the Sahaj community, I would say, which is Jung. Through symbols, dreams, and intuition, he got self-realization. And I think he wrote down many roles that he gave to some archetypes that we can easily find in movies and books, and in everything, in every story, I would say, but also in the society. But I might go into this like later because I have a really interesting theory about you, Adriano. But I will tell you
Mi
about it
piace
later.
dai poi express.
In your opinion, which are like the most among the most known books and movies, like the Sahaj symbols, so we can find we can actually say that they are like fair to say that they might be Sahaj.
You mentioned Carl Gustav Jung, and not everyone knows that the vast majority of Hollywood screenplays, so Hollywood movies, stories,
Mhm.
are built upon a rule book by Chris Vogler, the author of the book. And this rule book that is like really like the model of all the Hollywood movies, from love stories to epic stories to sci-fi, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
This book is as well inspired by the hero's journey, which is a theory created by Joseph Campbell, who was a direct disciple of Carl Gustav Jung.
Mm.
The hero's journey is this concept that Campbell developed after he studied all the sacred or epic poems or stories or sacred texts of all the cultures, from the
Mhm.
Bible to Pinocchio, from, I don't know, the Divine Comedy to the Book of
Odyssey,
Gilgamesh. Okay,
whatever.
the Odyssey, and we can easily recognize these patterns in not only in these great classics of literature, but also in blockbuster movies. So, for example, the hero's journey is built upon different challenges that the hero have
Mm.
to overcome to uh, reach his goal. And his goal can be, there is a princess that must be saved from the evil guy, from the villain, or you have to, I don't know, gain
Destroy the ring
access.
that tries to rule them all,
Exactly.
stuff like that.
And in Joseph Campbell intuition, which is based on factual evidences, because all these previous classics were all books of spiritual inspiration, all this journey is a metaphor, is an allegory of our inner journey, of,
Yeah.
we will say, the Kundalini awakening, of the process of self-realization. It is not a stretch. That's the way it is. We call it self-realization. We call it Kundalini awakening. We know actually that all these symbols and archetypes and previous poems, they are talking about this, okay? But also in the original purpose of these books, there was this spiritual meaning to convey on a symbolical level this message of spiritual awakening. Shimadaji has given us, by her grace, the ultimate synthesis of all this previous knowledge, plus the practical tool to actualize. When we say Om Twameva Sakshat, Shri Ganesha Sakshat, Shri
Mhm.
Shakti Mataji Shri Maladevi Namo Namah, I'm not only mentioning a sacred mantra, but I'm quoting mother's speech. She says, Sakshat means actualization. So you actually are
Mhm.
that deity. And we actually develop by her grace this. It's not only a symbol, it's not only a message of peace, it's not dead word, it's an actualization. That's the key of Saja Yoga. That's the unicity of that's the divine gift of Saja
Mhm.
Yoga, because
Well,
the
there is
libraries
also like
are full of books that are saying beautiful quotes. Shimadaji has given us, by her grace, her gift. She has bestowed on humanity this gift of actually develop this awareness. So, for example, if we see, I don't know, the second chapter of the Divine Comedy,
mm,
or the scene in the Matrix movie where when Neo meets the Oracle,
mhm.
who is dressed as the a Sibyl in the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, but that's a detail, because the authors were aware of this subtle
They're
hint.
kinda always aware, I think, when they
Yeah,
do this
with
stuff,
different
more or
with
less,
different
different
level
ways.
of awareness, but they are. But why I'm comparing this, the Divine Comedy, second chapter, the scene of Matrix, the beginning of the Lord of the Rings, when they say to Frodo that he has to rescue the ring, or I don't know, Then we will talk about Harry Potter later, because it's tricky, Harry Potter, of
Harry
course.
Potter is tricky. It's really tricky.
It's very interesting because it's tricky. But there is always this phase, for example, when the hero refuses the challenge. He says, I'm not worth of it. There is always there is this Maya, this moment where he has to doubt himself. Okay, I won't compare deities to these human stories, but also in the gospel, in the Shimadaji said that also the day side was a comedy. Words that she used, okay, it was a play to open the Agya chakra, but in the divine incarnation, there's a moment in the gospel when, since he was also a human being, Jesus has got this moment of doubt, and then he overcome the doubt and he accept the sacrifice. This is in the human version of this divine play. Okay, always be aware of what I said at the beginning. When we speak about the divine, we have to take for granted these limits of human
Fifth
language.
time you're saying this.
Yeah,
I
but
think
I say
people.
because the fanaticism is the curse of all the religions. For example, other patterns that we may recognize, there is always a bunch of friends that gather around the hero and they help the hero. Let's see the Yogis. Actually, Shimada, she said when she has seen the Star Wars movie, that the Yogis were not the Jedi, but they were the Yogis, because they were so innocent and cheerful, and with the power of the collective, they could overcome the great empire of evil. Another pattern of the hero's journey is there is always an object with magic qualities, maybe the ring, maybe the wand.
The
Okay,
wand.
exactly. Or, for example, there is always a female figure, which is which
The animas.
the anima, which has got like a protection role. She's a source of sublimity. I don't know how to say. She's like the princess or the great mother or the queen. Okay, she has got this sublime role that lead the heroes in the journey. There is always some sort of death and resurrection in all
Yeah,
these
there is the
stories.
old man, the sage, people like that.
There is the
The
mentor,
Dumbledore, the Gandalf,
Gandalf, or Dumbledore, or Virgil in the Divine Comedy, or the cricket in Pinocchio. We can recognize all these patterns. And what's the issue? The issue is that even though you may apply this rule book properly, not always the result is enlightened. Okay, so
it became a rule.
It became a rule, became a mental
Yeah, like a
mental
mechanism, which is like.
exercise. And I really would like to speak about Harry Potter, because I think it's very interesting to show how can yogis fail or succeed in this discovery, okay, this seeking of symbols in the outside world. Because we know once an English yogi asked Shimadaji, asked him, I think it was around 2006, between 2006 and 2008, something like that, in Kabbalah. An English yogi was questioned by Shimadaji about the situation of England. He mentioned this huge success by this novel in which the main character was a kid, was also a wizard, and mother would have said something like nonsense. She would have commented something like nonsense, and of course, if I mean, it's obvious because we know in Saja Yoga magic is false knowledge. It is a godless cosmogony in Harry Potter, no? Because there is good and evil, there is right and wrong, but there is no God, there is no spirit. There is this
They
magical
celebrate
power.
Christmas, which is a bit Christianity wise thing, and
Well, of course, yes, but for example,
maybe.
Narnia, for example, is a
Mhm.
beautiful. Not the movies; they're not so great, but
No,
the
no,
novel,
movies
the
no.
original novel by C.S. Lewis, who was a writer,
Best friend of
highly
Tolkien,
appreciated.
eh?
Yeah, eh? Friend of
Best friend of
Tolkien,
Tolkien,
but
because
mother, what I'm not
praised
sure.
him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know that.
because of the screw
Second.
tape letters. The screw tape letters, it is a masterpiece of introspection. It's like Dostoevsky with irony. Okay. Dostoevsky, I want to underline this because many great authors are victim by stereotypes. Shimadaji praised Dostoevsky. Also in Italy, in a public program in Milan, she praised the depth of the introspection of Dostoevsky.
Mm.
Tolstoy is more balanced, okay? She always mentioned Tolstoy in a good way, we know, but Dostoevsky is a great, deep writer. But we were talking about Narnia, and Narnia is clearly a Christian metaphor. The lion is
Clearly.
clearly Christ-like figure.
Mhm.
Harry Potter, we all know that at least two generations of Yuvas are very into Harry Potter. We cannot deny it. Okay.
Most of them, yes.
But I personally understand why. And Harry Potter, it's an example of a work of art, of a blockbuster movie, of
Mhm.
a widely successful book. And actually, one Asajja Yogi was the first editor of it. I don't want to
Mhm.
say something
Apparently.
not accurate, but this is what I know. There's a quite renowned Sajja Yogi was the first editor of it, so that's something
So,
that we have to inform the public as well. But uh, so once that we are aware that Harry Potter books and movies are not Sahaj, it's quite evident. We can watch these movies without being affected on a subtle level, but also not only we can be entertained, but we can also recognize on an intellectual level the ability to describe social and inner dynamics that are real.
but like
Like,
which ones?
but for example, since J.K. Rowling wrote these books after all the previous classics, The Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and blah blah blah, and Narnia, of course taken she has quite ripped some patterns. That's why it's so popular, because it's like it's a postmodern epic story 2.0. Okay,
Yeah,
it's like an hip hop song that uses previous riffs and previous refrains and previous melodies.
previous
For example,
samples, like
a character like Snape, you say Snape in English.
yeah, it's a Snape.
Snape is like a Dostoevskian figure,
Really
and
Christological, like because he
well,
sacrifices himself. I mean, Lily Potter maybe might be so much more Christological. Also,
well,
she also represents like the mother in the Jungian symbols, if we may.
of course, And also, this is the point. Magic is not the divine.
Mm-hmm.
The divine has got its own magic, but magic
Of course.
doesn't have any divine aspect. So even though for example, the value of friendship, the traitor figure,
Mm.
it's very well exposed, and this is a very interesting point. The charm of the villain. I
Mm.
don't like Voldemort, but Voldemort, when he was young, he was quite cool guy. I'm unwillingly I'm dressed like him
Just like
now.
him. Crazy.
No,
And I'm
of
dressed
course,
like Harry, always wearing a
again,
weird
guys, it's,
jumper.
let's say it's
It's
way
cool. It's
more
cooler.
cooler than Harry Potter. But besides,
Yeah, no, but that's
besides
because the way the good side is portrayed in such a bad manner.
this is now we are joking, but on a serious note, Shimataji, I know
Mhm.
that she disliked the Godfather movie.
Mhm.
As Italians, we should introspect. But
That's so
the
true.
Godfather, because she said she wrote also, I think in the modern era, if I'm not wrong,
Mm.
you cannot portray a criminal as a good guy, as a good person. And that
Mhm.
is something that from the Godfather leaked on all the movies of the last 40 years. Like in Italy, we have all these Gomorra and Suburia, blah, 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 Romanzo Criminale, no, but
Yeah, all
all
the
over the
mafia
world, like
movies,
the
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, and also Shimadaji. Of course, she didn't like at all the Last Temptation of Christ. Of course,
Mhm. Oh, no.
by Martin Scorsese. Goodfellas, Casino, but also now all the Netflix series about El Chapo, blah blah blah.
And Peaky Blinders also, which is a
Peaky
series that
Blinders.
we
I mean,
love, but Thomas Shelby is not a guide, of course, no?
for example, speaking about patterns, speaking about the
Mm.
the, the fascination of the villains, Peaky Blinders is exactly the same scheme of The Godfather.
Yeah,
Exactly. Cioè, Tommy Shelby is Michael Corleone dressed up as a
as a
Birmingham
Birmingham
street
dude
guy.
from
And
the
it's the same
1920s.
thing because he was the most clever of the family. Originally, he was a good guy. He was forced to lead the criminal activity of the family. One brother is impulsive and violent. The
Mhm,
other one
mhm.
is quite dumb. Okay.
Yeah.
But beside these similarities, what I mean to say is this: one of the limits of such communication and one of the flaw in our attempt to spread in such, it's a sterile form of fanaticism, which is not such. We start our conversation mentioning Jung, and I would like to finish it always with Jung. It's a very delicate and slippery topic, so I'm trying to be as adulterate and diplomatic as I can. Of course, Shimadaji advised us, of course, to not put our attention on negativity. We should not put our attention on negativity, of course. At the same time, she praised Jung, and she always invited us to read authors like William Blake, Carl Gustav Jung, C.S. Lewis, and many more. But for example, Dostoevsky, okay, Homer also. Now, all these authors in their work, they do something that Jung explained in a theory.
Mhm.
And the theory is the integration of the shadow. What does it mean? Jung says something like, you don't get enlightened by the imagination of light, by becoming aware of the darkness. It's very tricky. I'm not saying that we have to put our attention on the dark side. No, at all. I'm just saying that to become strong yogis and to overcome the negativity in society, we have to understand, we have to comprehend the dynamics and the mechanism that let the dark side look more fascinating, that let the good guys look dumb. The good guys are not dumb ones, they are the smart ones. Okay. So the hero should be the fascinating guy, not the villain. But we are coming from 2000 years of a dominating religion, which emphasize the sense of guilt, which emphasize the sacrifice, and of course, the rebel one, which is the bad guy, the ultimate bad guy, as we know. I won't mention him. He has become the idol of all the seekers, of all the people who are against the system, who want to change society, blah blah blah, because a fake and empty religion has taken all the good symbols and emptied them out of meaning. So I think our purpose as yogi is to build again a spiritual culture, studying with detachment, but studying the work of arts which are successful. We have to understand the dynamics of human psyche if we want to be not seductive, because we don't need to be seductive, but if we want to be interesting for seekers. The seekers of truth are smart people, they are lively minds, they are not boring priests. So we cannot speak to them like, this lovey-dovey, milk and honey fairy tale. Saja Yoga is the ultimate journey, is the greatest adventure of all time. The inner discovery of Saja Yoga is the most fascinating and exciting and passionate. I mean, in a good sense, not in a bad sense, of course, but is the greatest story ever told. We cannot convey it like if we are Boy Scout with no caffeine in their blood. I don't know if I'm enough clear.
I mean, to me, yes. Going back to the Jung's quote, it really reminded me the leap of faith that Gandalf did, going against the Balrog with the sword, going into the darkness, and then I would say reborning again in the Two Towers as the Gandalf the White wizard, and he reborn again basically. So he's like, of course, the hero, and he also embraces his destiny as Yogi should, as Harry Potter did when he went to the woods to see Voldemort and theoretically to die. He embraced his destiny. And going back to symbols, and here there is my theory about you, because looking to
I'm
all
thrilled and
the
scared at the same time.
looking at all the archetypes, there is the one that as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, that's Adriano,
The
and
jester.
it is the trickster. It's like
Ah,
the Han Solo of the situation,
of
like,
course, of
of
course.
course, which is like the cool guy that introduces like chaos and humor in the situation, but also knows how to handle it. Going
Thank
back to the stories where you said in the
And I'm a
previous,
Gemini. That explains it all.
that's another thing. That's another thing.
Thank you.
Um, Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you actually for joining the podcast. I think it was really
And
interesting.
Jung
And
wrote about the trickster, you know?
yeah, yeah, is
Jung wrote
one of the
about
archetypes.
the
And
divine buffoon or something like that it's called.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it like that, but
The divine
you're saying
jest
this
in English.
probably. And I think maybe we can close it. I don't know if you want to close it. I might have like we could be here talking about this for like at least 72 weeks without stopping, but we cannot do that. Maybe you can come back. We can talk about every single movie or TV show if people are interested somehow. But for now, you guys can comment, can leave a comment, can give us your theories, can tell us like an example of characters or story that you where you saw some such value in it. But for the moment, my room is getting darker and darker, so I'm going to embrace my shadow. And I'm gonna say goodbye to you, Adriano, and thank you really much for joining it to for in this podcast. Really wise and funny at the same time.
Hopefully.
Um, hopefully for everyone. This was Sahaj Times podcast. Thank you everyone for
Riesci
listening.
arrivederci.
Bye.